Bonjour à tous. Je m'appelle Jaeho Hwang. Enchanté. Thank you. It's been 21 years since I've been in France, and it's my first time in Lille. It's such a beautiful city. I feel a lot of inspiration coming in. I arrived on last Friday, and there was a music festival. The city was filled with energy. It was crazy. So I would like to see the same energy in this event. I sincerely thank Game Camp for inviting me here on stage. It was a 13-hour flight from Korea, but I think it was worth it. As I'm not a native English speaker, if there's anything today that wasn't clear, please don't hesitate to ask during the Q&A later, or find me after the session, or email me anytime, anywhere. Okay, today we will discuss how Dave the Diver was created and how we improved the game through user feedback. And we will also talk about how we approach the demo and early access. Okay, before we dive into that, I should probably tell you a little bit of myself. I started my career as an Asia region project manager of Crazy Arcade, which was a huge hit in China and Vietnam. Then I took on the US region project manager role for an action game called Vindictus. My first game as a director was Evil Factory, a very arcadey pixel mobile boss rush game. And I developed this game with 4 other members, a very small team, but we were able to pass 1 million downloads in a month. Unfortunately, it's not on App Store or Google Play anymore, but I brought some character and meme to Dave the Diver. My next game was Godzilla Defense Force, which featured the Oscar-winning Superstar Kaiju. And now I'm the director of Dave the Diver and recently became the producer of MINTROCKET Studio and supervising other games as well. Okay, Dave the Diver was first shown to the world through early access on October 27, 2022. After 8 months of improvement, the game finally had its official release. We developed the game for 2 years and 10 months up to early access. We started out as a small team of 5. At our largest, we had 27 developers working on the project. Dave the Diver actually started as a mobile game. The idea was to have exploration and sushi bar operation, much like how it is now, but due to company circumstance, we collaborate with National Geographic, and the project became a photo-taking game. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't the best either. Eventually, development got canceled due to various internal reasons, and after about a year, it resurfaced and we started development in a PC game. Okay, it's almost been a year since our official launch, and we have achieved quite a lot. On Steam, Nintendo Switch, and recently PlayStation, we sold about 4 million copies. And for PlayStation, we launched the game on the PS Plus catalog, and as far as I know, we reached top 3 game with most player among all the PS Plus games. We also earned the most play tag on Metacritic with a score of 90. On top of that, not only we were nominated for almost every major game award, but we also brought home the BAFTA for game design. It was truly an honor. Merci. Many people ask us if we knew that the game would be this successful. Short answer? No, not at all. As you may know, there are more than 10,000 games that launch on Steam every year. According to a 2019 study, only 32% of these games make over $10,000. And the average game makes just a little over $1,000 in lifetime revenue. It's pretty rough, isn't it? The Steam algorithm and operation method have been partially revealed through multiple sessions by Valve. I'm not sure if it was intended, but the result is rich get richer, poor get poorer mechanism. If a game accumulates many wish lists, sales, and high review score, it gets more exposure. leading to even more sales. Of course, Steam doesn't only recommend games by rank. It recommends games based on your preference. As you can see from the recommendation here for Slender Hentai Edition, I don't even know what that means. It's not always accurate. But considering the fact that a lot of traffic for Dave the Diver comes from these recommendations, we can see that many users trust this system. But to be recommended, there still has to be some amount of positive data accumulated. In short, the fact that popular games gain more exposure still stands. We did the marketing for Dave the Diver, but exposure on Steam banner and recommendation page were much more effective. 92% of users visiting our store page come from page within Steam. It's more powerful than any other marketing strategy. This is also proof that users strongly trust Steam's algorithm. In the end, for the game to be successful, it needs to become one of the top popular games in a specific genre so that it can appeal more to potential target users who prefer that type of game. Like this, unless you click View More pages, only the top 4 games within a genre will appear on your user's recommendation page. But Steam isn't just about a cold, harsh number. There's also a human touch as well, and that is curation. Valve sometimes offers to promote your game based on how well you managed it. It drives a lot of attention because it's a recommendation directly from Valve. And as it is shown universally to a wide audience, it helps to bring in a significant number of new users. So in a nutshell, on Steam, your game are exposed and led to sell through 2 things, algorithm and curation. When Dave the Diver launched, we received a very effective promotion like this on top banner. It was a great opportunity to let many users know about our game. At that time, Valve sent us an email congratulating us on the launch, and it mentioned how well we had managed the update and community feedback. They didn't exactly say why they decided to promote our game, but from this context, we could find hints about the reasons. Let's be honest here, there were a lot more reasons for Dave the Diver to fail than to succeed. Just look at this. It was first time for the dev team making a single-player game, and for business team, they were also first time working on a PC console project. They didn't know how to promote the game. And we were all Korean while we were targeting the audience outside of Korea. And even worse, most of teammates never worked before. Most of them were newly hired. If I were an investor, I would not have invested in such a project. There's no visible element of success. But luckily, we were given the chance to start this project. We were unsure in the beginning, are we going to be able to make a good game in this situation? How can we gain attention from users? The answer to our concern was applying intuitiveness to the game design. Our goal was to make a game that users could easily understand without much explanation. Because we are not specialized in a certain genre, and we are not skilled enough to smoothly deliver complicated mechanics. So what do I mean by intuitive game design? For example, when the team first started designing the game, we also considered setting it in outer space. I'm first time showing you this. Yeah. But in space, we are not familiar with the creatures or environment. What is this planet? Will this creature attack us or not? Many things are unfamiliar. It requires a lot of extra explanation. This guy will attack you, you can be friends with this guy, and so on. These are something we need to explain to users. So we decide to go with something we are all already know. The ocean. This is very first sketch of Dave the Diver, showing the first time too. And another example of intuitiveness is using the real world element. In many games, players recover health with a potion or herb, but this is more like common agreement among gamers. Entering dungeon to collect monster eyeballs and silver to craft a magic shield is not something you do in real life. We wanted to use well-known material for things like this because, again, this reduced the cost for explanation. The game shown here called Earthbound, and it was a game that I really liked as a kid. In this game, you can ride a bicycle to move faster, and you can refill your stamina by eating a burger. It's very intuitive. You can quickly understand what's going on. There were other popular games at that time, such as Final Fantasy, where you need an elixir to restore your health, or Dragon Quest, where you use Chimera Wing to fly back to the village. But intuitive and realistic setting like Earthbound stood out to me the most. Okay, back to Dave the Diver. Here you can catch fish and go prepare sushi with it. You immediately know what you will get. In terms of looks of sushi, in reality, of course, they don't actually look like that and are mostly red and white meat, but we made it this way to be intuitive. This was Dave the Diver's early prototype. Not very pretty, right? Yeah. Our initial concept was catch fish, make sushi, and sell it to earn money, and dive deeper and deeper. We initially made the sushi bar run automatically all day long, like a mobile game, but it wasn't fun. So we put Dave in the sushi bar and made him serve, and made it only open at night, just like now. Since then, many elements have been added, but this part has remained as a core pillar of the game. We had the belief that many users would appreciate the intuitive and realistic settings. Even though the game setting is intuitive, intriguing, but still we need to explain game mechanic to user anyway. We all know that nobody likes the lengthy text tutorial. But how can we avoid this? How can we explain the gameplay system smoother? I think using character is a very good tool to explain complicated things without telling much, and motivate users to do a certain action too. For example, we wanted users to explore deeper beyond the shallow water. However, they continued to stay at the entry point where they could safely capture fish. So we added a character with some similarity to a well-known monster trainer guy like this. And we put him in charge of the collectible fish card in the game. This card system pushes users to actively search new fish to complete the collection. Players immediately understand the system itself with this character and get excited to catch them all. By the way, some people are concerned about Nintendo's opinion on this. But yeah, since we are on Nintendo Switch, I think it was okay. Okay, another example of use of character is in the sushi restaurant. This here is the list of things we need to teach the user about sushi restaurant operation. Quite a lot, right? Okay, this is an example of how we introduce that long list of sushi bar mechanic to use player by using our characters. Dave suddenly gets tricked into taking on a job to help Bancho, the sushi chef. Bancho heard Dave will work for him as a manager and server. Bancho urges Dave to set up the menu before the sushi bar opens, and this is how users learn how to set the menu. Then Cobra, another main character, says he's starving and asks Dave for food and drink. And this is where users learn how to pour green tea and serve food to customers. Lastly, one of the trickiest parts to teach users was how to discard the food that couldn't be served. We used Cobra once again and had him leave for a phone call. So the Dave would end up having to discard the food he just picked up. We were able to explain a lot of systems without lengthy text pop-ups with these characters and narratives. We actually tried text pop-up tutorial and even tried completely no tutorials, but both didn't work. So we came up with this idea. Dave the Diver has some very unique minigame to make the game feel less repetitive, which are made possible by the character design. No matter how strange something may seem, if the character is well designed, player will think, yeah, this character will do that and accept it. This method is used very often in the game like a Dragon in a humorous way, but you can also use it for serious game like Final Fantasy VII to ease the mood. The reason intuitiveness is so important in game design is because of the following reasons. First, people prefer things they are used to rather than things that are better. That's why if you release any kind of UI update, you should be prepared for angry comment the very next day. Second, most people don't read text. Many games use text to explain tutorial, but the truth is that players rarely read them in detail. And finally, first impression matters. When choosing a game, users make their decision by looking at the art style, character, and vibe. They rarely read through the description. Instead, they click on the thumbnail and look at screenshot or video to see if the game would fit for them. I believe in order to capture the user's attention in this short moment, it's important to include elements that many people are familiar with. That was our design philosophy, and I thought we were doing it right. But one concern kept following us. How can we prove this? How can we know if we made the right decision? We went through a lot of internal discussion, but it was hard to be sure when the team was already so immersed into our own game. So the conclusion was, let's test it a lot. So we did exactly that. We ran many tests. We probably tested the game every 3 months and minor tests in between times, of course. 3 times internally within the company, 3 times externally, and 2 times overseas. It was a bit difficult to create a full playthrough environment, so we focused a lot on testing the early part of the game. We categorized the test into 3 parts: first impression, after 2 hours, and the final score. The initial impression showed us how appealing our game concept and design were, while the final score measured how well that impression was maintained. As you can see, the score got lower here, right? So we decided to figure out why through additional tests. So at that time, the game started with Dave in debt, owed money, and he had to pay it off. We realized that testers didn't enjoy this setting. Look at the score, it's only 6. So we revised the initial story several times to create the narrative that user could find more appealing, and validated with more tests until we satisfied with it. Okay, having gone through this whole process, we finally revealed our game demo to the public for the first time at Steam Next Fest 2022. We went live for a gameplay session ourselves and thinking maybe about like 100 people would watch, but we ended up with over 7,500 concurrent viewers, which was a huge surprise. It was my first time live streaming in my life, and on top of that, I just speak in English, so I was so panicked. Nevertheless, Steam Next Fest helped us to gain a lot of wish lists, and we could gather honest feedback from users as we added a survey system in the game. We first opened our Discord server alongside the demo too. In the beginning, we had a few hundred members, But through consistent and dedicated communication, we now have over 50K members. From the very start, we engage directly with our users, and even after 2 years, I still talk to them directly with my not-so-perfect English every day like this. This approach not only allows us to hear user feedback directly, but also helps build trust with our community. Every day, we put together user feedback on Discord, Reddit, Steam, and other platforms, and we consistently discuss what can be improved and what new bugs have been discovered. While we cannot implement every suggestion, we try to explain well when something is difficult to apply, like ultra-wide monitor support that we technically couldn't do. Initially, we worried users might get upset or leave if we say no, but they mostly appreciate our honesty when we communicate directly with them. Sometimes we gain unexpected insight through discussion with users. During internal tests, the sushi restaurant aspect of our game received lower rating compared to the diving parts. So we introduced the game as casual ocean adventure, like a casual version of Subnautica. But after we released the demo, we realized that many users actually liked our game because of the sushi restaurant. By the way, the t-shirts here was on the AliExpress, not the licensed one, but we didn't sue them. A lot of streamers would introduce the game as a sushi bar tycoon and enjoy the restaurant management aspects, which in turn made us reconsider which part of the game to highlight. The demo also taught us things that we never thought of. First, we recognized that certain jokes about physical appearance could be seen as more offensive in different cultures, so we adjusted them. We also removed specification on the certain region as they could be misleading. Regarding the sushi restaurant, we decided to feature it more in our promotional video and increase its visibility on our Steam page too, like that. We also added relevant text to help users who might enjoy our game to find it more easily. Okay, let's now move on to early access. So what is early access? As shown on the screen, early access is a stage in development where users participate and provide feedback through the community to help improve the game quality. We should also consider what early access is not. According to Valve, early access is not a crowdfunding method for raising money or a pre-purchase. To add my 2 cents, early access is not an excuse to sell an unfinished project. Of course, the game wouldn't be fully developed at this stage, but this doesn't mean that it's okay to deliver a low-quality product. Low-quality game makes it difficult for users to provide accurate feedback, and they are less likely to be engaged in the first place. Even if the content volume is quite small, the quality of that content should still be polished enough so the user can understand which direction you are heading to. Then, how do we achieve a successful early access? As mentioned before, we should prioritize quality over quantity. Next, we should make sure to listen to user feedback as much as we can. Clear and direct communication is a must. One thing I want to emphasize is that quality of life improvement and game balance should be the main focus. Many games try to add more content, like new characters or new story chapters, during early access. But please save this for live service later on. Early access is about refining the current version through bug fixes and improvement. Baldur's Gate the ultimate game of the year of 2023, surprisingly received mediocre rating of around 6 to 7 during early access. But Larian Studio spent 3 years with only the first chapter of the game open to the public, making numerous improvements. With this as a foundation, they developed the later chapter and it turned into the masterpiece, as we know. For Dave the Diver, during our 8 months of early access period, we conducted 25 improvement updates, and we credited users who provided bug report and suggestion at the bottom of our patch note every time. Throughout this period, we did not introduce any story or content update, but we engaged with the user for feedback. And major updates were presented through detailed video on YouTube in Korean and English. Yeah. While we didn't have a large user base during early access, we refrained from marketing or event to increase the numbers. We decided to focus on the user who want to talk about the game with us rather than the number itself. User feedback gave us a clear outline of what we had to work on. Here are some key updates we added to the game based on that feedback. First on the list was key mapping. As Dave the Diver is a game where a lot of different games are incorporated, we had decided not to add key mapping internally. But we received over 100 Steam community comments on this, which pushed us to update this feature. Okay. So we added this function later on. And this next was Beluga Taxi. Many users told us about how traveling in the Sea People village was inconvenient due to its large size and many fetch quests. So we added the Beluga Taxi system so that user could ride it around to move more quickly within this area. We also added a sorting function to the ingredients list in the sushi restaurant. It helps users to find the ingredient faster and easier. And also added Mac and Steam Deck support so more users could enjoy the game. And added a tutorial replay system that many users requested. So these things are something we never thought of before we going into the early access, and it totally based on user feedback. I mean, I didn't put here, but a lot of users asked us to remove the button meshing, but we kind of ignored it, but we got like 500 comments about this, so after the official release, we added that function too. Okay, I think maybe our endless effort convinced Valve to give us this feedback. This was what we promised ourselves during early access. Even if someone quits because the game isn't fun for them, let's make sure no one quits because of the inconvenience. Through early access, we were able to build a loyal community, improve the game's quality, and introduce the game to many people. As a side note, when we first talked to IGN before around our demo, they kind of like, ignored us. But during this early access process, we could gain more attention from the gamers. So we got a review score when we released the game. Anyway, after thorough preparation, we proceeded with the full launch, achieving results beyond our expectation. As you can see, the number had increased gradually after the release. It's not like the huge day one spike. It shows we use less marketing and focus on the communication and improvements. So I think a lot of audience here are not like working for the big company. So I think you guys don't have not enough marketing budget. So this also helped us to save a lot of marketing budgets. So you might be wondering, does early access have no risk? And the answer is it does. It does have some risk. If the game is revealed too early, the freshness dulls down. Especially if you're developing a narrative-driven game, the story will be open earlier. And communicating with user requires a lot of time. There might also be backlash if you respond the wrong way. Regarding the key mapping update mentioned earlier, when users ask for the update, I had replied that, hey, we cannot do it at the moment because we are focusing on the full launch. And users didn't like the answer. They said, oh, you should listen to user more before moving on to the full release. That was not an easy communication. Next, many users rejudge the game by the current quality. So even if it's in early access, if the quality is not up to par, then the project might just get ignored before even gain a chance to improve. And a lot of people will see that broken game on YouTube. So this is why I kept emphasizing quality over quantity. But still, I believe that the pros far outweigh the cons. Okay, let's be honest. Let's admit that we are not Nintendo. Nintendo has numerous successful launch experience, and I believe they have strong internal review system, many surprisingly talented individuals, and Miyamoto Shigeru-san, who can supervise everything, which we don't have. For ordinary devs like us, I believe the safest approach is to go through many stages of validation. Number one, carefully design a hypothesis on what a fun game is and set the direction for the game. Number two, validate them through internal testing. I mean, a lot of testing, as much as you can. Three, communicate with real users through demos or early access to review your game objectively. I highly recommend to open the Discord server early as possible and talk with them directly. We have some community members who joined very early stage, like 2 years ago, and still very active. So these guys know all the history of your game, and they know, like, they sometimes teach us what to do for the next step. And last but not least, by extensive preparation like this, we can move on to the full launch with better product quality and loyal fans of the game with increased chance of success. I know all of you here face many challenges in your game development journey. It's not easy, I know. It's getting even tougher these days. But as we wrap up today, I'll leave you with this. Believe in your game first, and find users who will build it with you. Thank you for listening. Merci. If you have any question, I'll do my best to answer.
Hello.
Bonjour.
Hi. Thank you so much for your talk.
Thank you.
I have a question about the mini games, the pouring drink mini games, and how they were impacted, if they were by players' feedbacks, and if they had, and what was their reception of them.
Mini game.
You know the pouring mini games that really differ from the experience that the whole game is about. You know, when you pour the beer and the tea.
Oh, okay. That was part of the switch bar mechanic, so it was there from the beginning. We just didn't want users to serve the food, and that was kind of boring when we tested. So we wanted the user to do a real action, which is it started with the tea, but users, when they serve and they suddenly need to do the pouring action, so the control was very sensitive. So we changed it a lot during the early access. And so when we feel confident about the tea pouring minigame, we made beer and we eventually made a cocktail.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Thank you so much. I just, I thought maybe you players wanted. No, never mind. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello?
Hello?
Here.
Okay.
I don't think you see me. Okay. We know that early access has evolved a lot in the industry over the years, and that now player expectations are different as for content or pricing. What made you think that Dave the Diver was ready for early access? What was the point when you had in your head, now we can release early access? Yes.
Okay, good question. So we released demo and we got user feedback and we fixed them all. So it was very, very dumb and simple decision. We thought, oh, the game is ready. So we released early access and immediately we kind of regret it because there's tons of bugs and unpolished part. So, hey, what should we do? And there was a moment we, listen to user more because as you know, Dave the Diver has a lot of different elements. So as a director, what I care the most is pacing. Oh, when should this customer need to appear? When should we show the mini game? And when should we make them go into the new chapter? So at the in the end, I think we made a pretty good pacing. So that's how we got successful. But at the beginning of the early access, we got a lot of requests from users that, hey, there are so many quests coming out at once, or there's too boring the period because there's no mission at all. So we paced here and there a lot. So answering to your answer, we thought small demo was very impactful. Everyone liked the demo, so we thought the game would be really good. But demo and early access are so different. So later we thought that, hey, early access and full launch will be really different. So our initial plan for early access was actually 6 months, but we extended it to 8 months.
Thank you very much.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you very much for your speech. I actually have 2 questions. The first one being, why did you think about mobile game at first? And the second one is kind of linked, is why didn't it work on mobile but apparently worked on console and PC?
Okay, mobile game, obviously we are not indie, as you know, like we're on the Nexus. So Nexus policy was making just mobile game. Everyone was making mobile game at that time. So, let's just make mobile game without thinking too much. But it was good. But later on, when we had a chance to revive the project, let's switch it to the bigger screen because everyone wants to feel the ocean. So we put that into, nobody asked us, but we put that into the PC, the platform on the Unity, and saw it on the huge screen. Hey, this is the way we should go. It's very, very spacey, and it really feels like an ocean, even though it's a pixel, the 2D games.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have a question up there.
Hi, very good speech and it was a very nice feedback and it's good to hear how you guys went from
Thank you.
Beginning to the end. One aspect that struck a chord with me was how to pick between each feedback. Like you get a lot of feedback from players, and people have a lot of ideas and things for you to do because they're passionate about the game. So how do you choose which are the important feedbacks or the ones that we need to focus on?
That's a really good
your
question.
idea.
Yes. So I obviously told our community members, hey, not obvious, but our internal philosophy is we do the main game design and we only listen to the QOL, quality of life improvement. So when they talk about the gameplay itself, we tell them that, hey, which part is not fun, which part we should improve, but that's not like we follow their suggestion. But some users give us really long list of suggestions on how to improve the game, but we never change the core pillar of the game. We only change the quality of life, the convenience part. So we divide it internally, and we try to tell user as much as we can, because I saw some devs that changed the core part of the game based on user feedback, and it kind of lose direction of the game. So it's very tricky part. You have to listen to user all the time, but you cannot just listen to them. So you have to be strong on the game core pillar, and then listen to user to make them approach it easier.
Sounds fair, thank you. And
Thank you.
one last follow-up question is, how do you identify the biggest pain points for players like the ones you need to focus on for the quality of life updates?
Pardon? I'm sorry, I missed it.
For the QOL updates, how do you focus on the biggest pain points for the players? Like, this is the biggest one we need to improve compared to the other ones.
The prioritizing?
Yeah, that's it.
Like I showed in the slides, we have a very long list of user requests. We try to mark that because we cannot just listen to user like every time they say it. So we kind of categorize it and prioritize it. If many user request a certain quality of life things, that becomes the highest priority.
All right, makes sense. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hello.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Thank you for sharing your journey.
Thank you.
Actually, what surprised me first when I first saw the cover of Dave the Diver was that it was in pixel art, and a lot of pixel art games have a basic drawing cover. So I was wondering if it was really specific to this project, like keeping pixel art /3D, or if you want to keep this for next games, or if it's very specific to the style of your
Cool.
games and the art team.
First, I love pixel art. That's very cool art style. And second, I actually worked in the US branch in Los Angeles, and I was on the publisher side for 3 to 6 months, very short amount of time. And I realized that a lot of Western gamers didn't like Asian art style, not pixel art, just the 3D art. They feel a little different. So the second was we try to avoid this cultural preference. So everyone loves pixel art. It's very simple. It's very omitted a lot of parts. And so I think it's very universal to everyone. And third, I wanted to keep the arcade feeling. Because I love Subnautica. It's a good game, no offense. But in Subnautica, when you hunt fish in 3D, it's very slow and it's not. It doesn't give you feeling to hunt, then fight. So we wanted to keep it 2D. And as we played all the arcade game as a kid, the 2D pixel art gives a very action arcade feeling. So my first game was completely pixel arcade. So I want to keep that experience into Dave the Diver.
Another question here.
Okay.
Hi.
Okay.
Here.
Okay. Fine.
Hello. I just have a very quick question about text in the game, because multiple times during the presentation you said that you try to keep it as low as possible in terms of presence of text to explain gameplay and things like that. And you said that most of the time, and I personally agree, players don't really like to read a lot text on screen. But the thing is that at the beginning of Dave the Diver, there is not a lot of text tutorials, but there is a lot of dialogues.
Yes.
So how did you balance that? Did you listen to feedback a lot about that? Or maybe players said tutorials are not okay, but we love dialogues. What was the mood about text?
That's a really good question. Because we didn't want to give very dry, cold text tutorial, in return, we have to make characters speak more. And some people didn't like dialogues. So, yeah, I mean, the character is really important for Dave the Diver, but so I wanted them to talk a lot about their setting and the game's, the system itself, but it was hard, actually. We do know that some people say, hey, you know, there's so many dialogues, but for us, that's to reduce the text tutorial. We wanted to build up to make user understand the character itself so that we can remove the tutorial. Because we have that intention, the dialogue became longer. So, I mean, as a director, I had to cut a lot of dialogue, so there's no like background story of Dave in the game. Because we put that in and it became too long, so there's no like background story at all. So, I mean, that's just hard to balance. Yeah, but we choose not to put text tutorial that cut and kill your pacing of the game and made characters speak more.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, hello.
Hello.
Just here.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for the talk. Do you remember how many updates did you make during the early access, or at least the frequency? And the frequency was a goal during the early access.
The frequency of?
The update frequency. I mean, each time you update the early access for the player.
Oh, okay, so the update frequency?
Yes.
It's not decided, yeah. We didn't do the weekly basis. We just gather user feedback, and if it gives a good list of feedback, and we update right away. So sometimes if it's urgent, let's say there's a blocker that blocks gameplay, we did immediately. And if it's not urgent, then we pile it up. And if there's like 10 bugs, and then we did it. So I think we did like update every week. And for the big update, for the system change, like I mentioned, key mapping, I think we did about once in a month. Yeah. I know some developers made it completely weekly based. We're going to do a patch on Thursday, so please give us feedback, but we just didn't do that.
Merci beaucoup pour vos questions. On va passer à la conférence suivante. And thank you again, Jaeho, for your talk.
Okay. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.